Hello everyone, my name is Ravi Kumar, Chair of the Infosys Foundation USA. I have a very distinguished guest in our new talk series called the Infosys Ed Talks, the CEO and founder of Code.org, Hadi Partovi. Hadi and Code.org have partnered with the Infosys Foundation. We're very excited about it. A little snapshot about Hadi: he was a software engineer, grew up the ranks at Microsoft, went to Harvard for a computer science degree. Hadi co-founded Code.org, a nonprofit education K-12 organization, along with his brother, and he's a full-time CEO for Code.org. Thank you, Hadi, for talking to us from a New York office.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the
me.
partnership. Every time I speak to you, I get so inspired by how much you've achieved and how much there is to do to make an impact. And I actually know that you're one of the evangelists for computer science to be foundational in K-12 schools. Tell us a little bit about why you think it has to be foundational, and why is it so critical for the future of talent?
That's a great question. Nobody questions that the sort of future of lots of high-paying jobs are in computer science, but a lot of parents think, well, maybe my kid doesn't want to become a coder when they grow up. Maybe they want to become a doctor, or maybe they want to become a nurse or a farmer. But the reality is, in the 21st century, every line of work is increasingly more digital. If not today's doctors, very soon doctors are going to be dealing with software-based diagnosis, software-based treatment for diseases. Future lawyers are going to be looking at using technology for whether it's for intellectual property, for regulations, for managing contracts. Today's farmers, if you're a farmer, your tractor actually has more lines of code in it than a laptop does.
Yeah.
And managing that tractor, dealing with downloading patches to this tractor, et cetera, all lines of work are increasingly more digital. Plus, when you go through the K through 12 education system, people don't go to school to get vocationally prepared in K through 12. When you're in 9th grade, you study biology. You don't study biology because you want to become a doctor. You study biology to learn how the world works. And every school should similarly teach you computer science in 9th or 10th grade, not because you want to become a coder, but to understand how the world is changing around us because of all the technologies that's impacting us. So whatever career you want to go into, it's very relevant.
What do the stats look like? How many states have embraced computer science as foundational, and what percentage of schools in the US treat it like a foundational course?
Sure. So in the 6 years Code.org has been doing this work, 49 states have passed some form of policy to help advance computer science in our public schools. Of those, a little over a dozen states have gone so far as requiring that every school must teach computer science, or putting funding behind helping the schools to teach computer science. And that's about a dozen states that have done all of that. But almost every state has done something to start moving the ball forward, to recognize this as a core academic field. We've, in the same 6 years, gone from about 10% of schools teaching computer science to now 45% of all US schools teach computer science. It's still not the majority, but I think in 1 or 2 years we'll be at the point where we can finally see the majority of schools do this. Of course, we want every school to teach computer science. With Code.org's own courses, what's amazing is 40% of all the students in the country have an account on Code.org. So you can go to any city, any county in the United States. If you go to a school, chances are pretty reasonable that the kids there, or at least some of the kids, have used Code.org, which for me is amazing because I love children and I love teachers, and seeing all over the place people are using the software we've created and the courses we've created is really exciting.
So it took you 6 years to get to 40% of the students. Do you see any accelerated mechanisms to get that faster in the next 4 or 5 years? Sure.
When states and the government gets involved, things really accelerate. So for example, in the state of Indiana, thanks to Infosys' help, the governor decided computer science is important to the economy of our state. It's not only foundational, but the onrush of jobs included by companies like Infosys saying they're going to invest in here. The governor invested money in computer science education. Indiana became one of the states to do all the policies needed to press computer science education. And then as a result, we see a massive acceleration of growth within the schools, because the combination of the excitement around computer science with the government support and the funding support all come together to make it possible.
Awesome. I was actually thinking about it, and one of the things we strongly believe in the foundation is to get to students, the shortest way is to get to teachers. And teachers are under-equipped in K-12 schools to teach computer science education. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what you think the world should do to bridge that gap.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think teachers are doing the most important job in this country. My own dad was a professor and he helped start a university, and I have grown up my whole life really having such a strong appreciation for teachers and educators. And the first thing I'd say is in our country we can do more to appreciate and recognize teachers. Not just in terms of how much they get paid, but just literally respected as among the most important people in our society. They're the ones preparing our future generations. Among the things that Code.org does, we provide professional development and training programs so that a math teacher or an English teacher or a history teacher who wants to teach computer science can go through a training program to learn how to do that. Obviously, we've partnered with you, whether you guys funding the Code.org training programs or we teach our programs at your Pathfinders conference, that's all part of that. But one of the things we try to do is make sure that support for the teacher is not only in the initial training, but in providing them ongoing support in their professional development so they can learn to add computer science into their school curriculum.
I was actually talking to a lot of teachers. One of the things they've always spoken to me, and in fact in the last Pathfinders Institute I had an opportunity to talk to them, they say while immersive trainings are important, their ability to get equipment, their ability to get support from the local administration to teach computer science is all very important for it to trickle down to students. Is there something Code.org is doing to support that endeavor?
Yeah, I would say the level of support teachers get in teaching computer science is mixed. It depends on the state they're in or in the school district they're in. And we work with teachers, but we also work with school districts and with states because effectively the government and the administration can play a really important role in this. In a state like Indiana, which is really supporting the spread of computer science, or the same thing is true in a state like Rhode Island or a state like Arkansas. In these states, when the teacher says this is what I need to help computer science happen, it's much easier. Or in a school district such as Los Angeles, the entire school district has said every student must learn computer science, so that teacher isn't all by themselves. The district on down has already said this is a priority. Right. But if you're in a school district that hasn't done that, or in a state that hasn't done that, then you as the teacher, right, you're trying to struggle for resources and I need to get a computer, how do I get a classroom? You're sort of begging and borrowing and stealing. Right. What's incredible is that these teachers who don't have that administrative support are still getting the job done because they are so passionate in their belief that this is important for their children's future.
Right. And how do just switching topics, thank you so much for that. Switching topics, I remember you telling me at the World Economic Forum when we met this year, the three broad focus areas for you. One is diversity, and I saw stats on your website which talks about how 46% are young women, 40-odd% are minorities and underprivileged, but that doesn't trickle down to colleges and it doesn't trickle down to workplaces. Where's the gap? Because it does look like the embrace of computer science education is far more inclusive and diverse in schools, at least based on the work you're doing. But it kind of, falls out as you move up to higher ed colleges as well as workplaces.
Sure, that's a great question, and diversity is not only near and dear to my heart, it's why we do this work. And Code.org is not about just one group, it's about all the underrepresented in computer science, whether it's young women, black students, Hispanic students, rural students, students from low-income families. All of these groups are underrepresented in general in computer science. What's great is that they're not very underrepresented on Code.org. The majority of our students are from one of these underrepresented groups. And as you mentioned, almost half of our students are young women, almost half are from an underrepresented race. The challenge is the older the students get, the harder it is to keep them in computer science. The funnel is somewhat leaky. And that's a problem we need to deal with in K through 12. If we look at our elementary schools on Code.org, there's a better diversity than if we look at our high school course and so on.
So it kind of tapers down from itself.
But as these students starting from elementary school are getting older, they're actually changing the face of computing. And in fact, in the 6 years that Code.org has been around, every single year the high school AP course gets more and more diverse. You can see the gender gap. We're now at about 30% young women in APCS. When we started, it was about 17%. So it's a year-over-year improvement in diversity. The same thing is happening in the university program, but it's delayed, because it takes some years for these students to graduate.
You know, the two other things you and I discussed about is your aspirations to have a global footprint and your endeavor to actually have AI and machine learning as a part of what you build in your curriculum. How much have you progressed on that?
So on the global side, we're at the point where roughly 35% of the students on Code.org are from outside the US. It should be 90% or 95%.
They need you more than the US, I thought.
Yeah, the rest of the world is much, much larger than the US population. And to spread, there's a number of things we're doing, such as better translation of our courses. But one of the most important ones, which we're going to do over the next year, is making an offline version of Code.org. Because outside the US, so many schools lack internet access, or they have it, but it's slow. And they want a version they can put on a thumb drive and then have all of Code.org on a thumb drive. That's going to create a huge amount of opportunity outside the US. When it comes to AI and machine learning, we're not just about coding, we're about computer science, which includes coding, data science, cybersecurity, robotics, and machine learning is one of the most exciting new fields of computer science that is impacting all aspects of society. Yet most Americans have no idea what it is. They just think AI, it sounds intelligent and scary, but they don't really know how is it actually being used. And to have students learn about examples, learn about how training data is used with ML, learning about how the quality of that training data is so critical into whether the algorithm comes up with a good model or a highly biased model. These are concepts that I think people need to learn, even if they don't become technologists, just to be civically engaged in a world where this technology is changing the world around us is important.
Right. You have this vantage point of interacting with administrators, governments, academia, students, teachers, corporations like us. What do you think is the call for action to accelerate the noble endeavor you have taken up?
The most important of all these groups has been the teachers, frankly. It's funny because we've had people like the President of the United States talk about the importance of this, or Shakira, or the homepage of Google, some of the loudest calls to action. But when we look at where is actually the movement truly happening, it's the teachers in the classroom that make the biggest difference. And what's incredible is the majority of all teachers, almost 70% of teachers, believe computer science should be required for every student. That's far from where the world is right now. Most schools don't even teach it. It's not even an option. But the teachers themselves believe in this. And so our best hope is getting them to use their voice and to be an agent of change in the schools that they work in.
Thank you, Hadi. Thank you so much. Always an inspiration talking to you. And
thank you so much. And thank you for
all the good work.
Generous support of our work.
Thank you so much.